Currencies, though, perhaps reflecting some of the weaker final PMI readings we've gotten in. We've had manufacturing readings for the first point. A lot of them are contractionary. Europe disappoints. France outperforms a bit, but again, we are in contraction. It is all about what is the strongest economy. What is the least dirty shirt? Perhaps that is the dollar today. It's not just stronger against the yen. It's strong against the euro. It's stronger against the pound. Sterling, cable rate, that's down about 0.2%. We continue to weaken, despite the fact that the first half of the year, the best performing G10 currency versus the dollar was sterling. Is that going to hold up this half as we have growth concerns rippling across the UK? And look, there's no catalyst necessarily for higher front-end yields in the UK in this gilt market. But that's definitely what we're getting. A lack of news maybe means that you just continue this trade that we've seen, and that is front-end sell it. We're up about 4 basis points. 5.3% is where we stand on the front end of this UK yield curve. Critty.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of the market is really driven by the monetary policy. Surprise, surprise. But at what extent, or to what extent, does that transition to some of the geopolitics, which brings us to one of the major stories this week? U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen looking to travel to China this week as the world's 2 largest economies look to mend ties after bilateral tensions. She spoke about her expectations last week.
We really welcome and want to have a healthy economic relationship, and we think it's generally beneficial. We have disagreements. My hope in traveling to China is to reestablish contact. There are a new group of leaders. We need to get to know one another.
And joining us now is Bloomberg China Economy and Government Editor Jill Deesis. Jill, what do we know about the Secretary's visit? We know it's been on the agenda for a little bit. We also know that it's following on the heels of State Secretary Anthony Blinken. What can we actually get, perhaps, from this 3-day visit?
Yes, exactly. Well, I think that at this point, Yellen has been wanting to visit China for quite a while now. This is finally her chance to do so. I think at this point, it's really about mending ties between the U.S. and China, or at least finding some way to keep open methods of cooperation and coordination. Really, this is a very, very tense relationship, as we all know. It has sometimes felt like it's just become even more tense in recent months. We've seen sanctions being involved. We've seen measures by Washington to try to cut off China from critical forms of technology. All of that is probably going to factor into this visit. I'm sure at this point Beijing is going to want to try to push back on some of those measures that the U.S. is taking against China. That'll probably factor into her visit. From the Treasury Department side, they're also going to want to try to push China a little bit more on providing debt relief for distressed developing nations. That's been a really, really key focus of the Treasury Department in recent months. But really, again, as you mentioned, this is just coming off the back of the Anthony Blinken visit, Secretary of State to China very recently. That visit seemed like it was at least moderately successful in terms of keeping those lines of communication open. And ultimately, what we're looking to see is something that paves the way for an eventual Xi-Biden meeting later this year. That's something that Joe Biden
vi se 13 kroner her. Jeg tror vi vil se 20 kroner. Hvor mye du solgt for eksempel 13 kroner ville holdt. Kanskje sånn halvparten hvis du har kjøpt her nede.
Elsewhere in China, we also had a shakeup of the PBOC, a new PBOC party chief. What can we read into this?
Halla! Jeg har fått ny PC, så nå kan jeg streame og trade samtidig. Jeg har short aksen.
Possibly puts him in line to become the next PBOC governor. That's not a huge surprise, seeing as
jeg har vært i gevinst mange ganger nå, men jeg venter på drag ned, så jeg holder posisjonen min. ISM-tallene kommer klokka 16:00 er det vel.
So really, we were waiting to see what the next level of shakeup would be. This doesn't seem to be any like it's signaling any kind of a big giant change.
Jeg har short 16:20 på dagsen.
More about continuity than anything else. Pan is a pretty long-time technocrat within China. He's well known by the international community as well. He's had some overseas appointments.
Jeg har short Nasdaq også, men Tesla kommer med bra tall, så det kan ødelegge litt.
We can probably expect policy to continue, which is as it has been, which is important because remember we've got a lot of downward pressure on the yuan right now, which I think is going to kind of put the PBOC's role in maintaining that in focus, and then also of course this slowing economic recovery momentum that we've seen in China. What does monetary policy easing look like in China going forward? All of that is going to be what we're looking to see how the PBOC adjusts in terms of big challenges going forward.
Joe, thank you very much. That is
Har lite i
Bloomberg's
horisonten
Jill
när
Basis.
det blir sålt och
Now on
köpt.
to the
Yes.
Tesla story. They delivered a record number of cars in the second quarter, up 83% from a year ago. The EV maker has vowed
Ja, jag
to
tror
more
pengarna ska
volume,
dubbla sig.
even at the expense of profit margin. Joining us now is Bloomberg Quick Take's Alex Webb. So, Alex, if these numbers are coming in at a record delivery, is it success then when it comes to the strategy of cutting costs, upping volume?
So it is as it pertains to that strategy. The thing you've got to look a little bit further back at is what prompted the strategy. And of course, Tesla added something in the order of 1 million cars worth of capacity with new plants in Shanghai, Berlin, and Texas, just at the time that demand was starting to slacken. And so what they've done is they've introduced a whole bunch of discounts and just generally price cuts. That has helped increase demand, but it has come at the cost of margin. If you look at Tesla's net margin last year, it was in the order of 15 to 18%, depending on the quarter. For the 2023, the market's expecting a 12% net margin. So it is clearly coming at some sort of cost.
And also, I think that positive kind of delivery record announcement also fueling some of the NASDAQ move this morning, at least in the futures trading. A similar story when it comes to Apple, at least traditionally, but perhaps this time giving investors a little bit of pause. What do we know about what Apple is going to do with their new virtual reality headset?
So the FT has an interesting story this morning, overnight, saying that Apple is cutting its production expectations and ordering fewer components from some of its suppliers. Now, we should take this with a certain pinch of salt because, firstly, all the numbers that we've had on what Apple's production expectations were have come from sources. Bloomberg has been amongst that, expecting about 300,000 units in the first year. If it doesn't hit that number, it looks like, according to the FT, it's because of supply issues pertaining to the micro OLED displays. Those are the things inside the headset, sitting in front of your eyes. They have some yield issues. They're not able to produce as many coming off the production line as they would like that meet their standards. Now, Apple's had this sort of issue before, for instance, with Face ID. The camera system in that didn't have the yields that they wanted. That pushed back the supply a little bit. Notice with this one, though, they were already going for quite a low number that they were expecting to sell next year. That gives them some wiggle room to fix any supply issues before they really think about scaling this into the millions of units, as many expect them to do.
Well, bringing things back to Elon Musk, as we unfortunately seem to do very often, a lot of people over the weekend, I myself included, got a message on their Twitter timeline saying what your rate limit, your tweet limit was maximized. Elon Musk follows up with he's limiting things. I know that we don't want to speculate too much exactly what's happening, but just what does this mean in general for Twitter as we continue to assess the direction with Musk at the helm?
He's in a business at the moment where he's trying to bring advertisers back, and the thing advertisers like is engagement, i.e. spending more time on these platforms. It gives you a greater opportunity to put ads in front of the users. If he's having to cap the amount of time or amount of tweets that people can see, I'm a pretty heavy user. I tend to have Twitter open all day. I've not yet encountered, still only early in the morning, certainly in the US, I've not yet encountered that break, but it does make it harder to sell ads. The other side of it is costs. Is there an issue here where if they are getting, as Elon Musk states, that they're getting lots of scraping happening from AI algorithms or AI training algorithms, then that adds to their server costs. So they've presumably had to make a cost-benefit analysis here of, are the costs too high on the server end, or do we need to be serving people these tweets in order to get ad revenue? And they've presumably gone for the first part.
Yeah, a lot to digest from Tesla to Apple to Twitter. Bloomberg's Quick Takes, Alex Webb, all over those stories. We go from the tech story to what's happening in France. Protests there continuing for a fifth night over the police killing of a teenager. Some 45,000 police were deployed in an effort to contain clashes that left hundreds of public buildings and shops damaged or ransacked. For more, we're joined now by Bloomberg's Caroline Conan in Paris. Caroline, talk us through this fifth night of protests. What are we seeing?
Hvor fort tror du PS dobler seg? Det kommer helt an på markedet, men jeg tror den gjør det innen år i hvert fall. Jeg tror man skal være forsiktig med shorten en dag. Hva tenker du på Asia?
arrests last night compared to, for example, 1,300 on Friday and 700 on Saturday. So it seems like
you're talking about Asia.
5,000 police officers every night to protect those suburbs, to protect the public buildings across France is somehow making things a little bit quieter. Also, we've had calls from the grandmother of Nahel, this teenager who was killed by a police officer last week, a call to end this violence, also calls from the soccer player Kylian Mbappé, who's very popular among this young crowd, because the rioters are often very young, between the age of 14 and 18 years old. They also come usually from those so-called banlieues, these low-income, undereducated, underemployed families in the suburbs of Paris, but not only, also the suburbs of other big cities such as Marseille, where we saw also a lot of riots over the weekend. So we'll see if this situation de-escalates over the next few days.
Caroline, as we take a step back and look at how this situation evolves, what about the economic cost? How much will this end up costing?
At the moment, the Finance Ministry is estimating that the damages to the public buildings will cost a minimum of 100 million euros, but of course this number is likely to rise if the riots continue over the next few days.
Kan ta gevinsten om jeg vil ha det ordentlig ned.
Crisis meetings over the past week. Today is meeting with the presidents of the National Assembly and the Senate, and tomorrow he's invited more than 200 mayors of all these cities that have been targeted.
Her har det snudd hver gang, så det er bra motstand her nede. Jeg støtter det.
So we'll see also whether there is some kind of plan of action for the suburbs to really try and deal with the deep issues that these young people are facing and their integration into the French society.
Det har vært lang olje og Nasdaq sin fredag litt godt penger der nå. Så kult. På CFD da, eller?
Poland increases security at its border with Belarus amid lack of clarity on the Wagner leader's whereabouts.
Kan ikke gå noen slippe seg holde selv som han så. Asia har kommet med bra PMI-tall i dag. Første gang på 2 uker. Så de kan gå litt opp det der da.
Including a spike in oil prices happening just in the past few moments. Saudi will be extending voluntary cuts of 1 million barrels a day through August. That headline just coming through. You can see the immediate price reaction. Oil is higher as there are concerns about the economy. The other superlative to alert you of, yield curve is inverting even further. It's just hit its most inverted level since 19.
Men fy faen, PG står opp nesten 9% i dag da. Det er jo litt da.
So what's the best investment advice you've ever been given by anybody?
The compound interest, the compounding of returns is an incredible miracle of business, finance, and human existence. Everything you learn is additive every day, and if you keep at it and don't quit, it's an incredible miracle. And it's not just interest. It was always said about compound interest returns, compound business returns, compound human returns. They're all very additive because you learn every day. And if you keep at it, it's very, very helpful.
In your observation of investors, what do you think is the biggest mistake that average investors make?
Selling at the wrong time.
And they sell when the prices go down?
Yes. Or yes. Not keeping, look, people have conviction, or they invest for if they invest for the right reasons, just keep at it.
Lots happening on Wall Street.
There are so many factors at play today.
It remains tight in certain parts of the economy.
Need to catch up?
This is Bloomberg Wall Street Week. I'm David Weston.
We've got the information and insight.
Crisis is too strong a word, and words like that get used a lot.
From business's most influential and instrumental.
America's economy needs a diversity of institutions. That's something that Wall Street pays a lot of attention to.
Bloomberg Wall Street Week, live tonight with replays all weekend on Bloomberg Television and Radio.
This is Bloomberg Surveillance Early Edition. I'm Kriti Gupta in New York with Danny Berger in London.
Tror du PGS kan stänga over eller lite sannsynlig?
Moscow, there is still little clarity about the operations of the mercenary group and the whereabouts of its former head, Yevgeny Prigozhin. For more, we go to Bloomberg's Maria Tadeo in Brussels. First of all, Maria, do we know where Prigozhin is?
Well, if you listen to the words of Alexander Lukashenko, and this is a huge leap of faith, obviously, he is in Belarus and he is in Minsk, but the issue here is that we have not really seen
PGS har falt, eller? På idioter?
pictures of Prigozhin to
Totalt inkompetente brødhøer.
Last time we actually heard from Prigozhin was a voice note. Remember, it was 11
Den kan gå så fort opp nå at folk ikke skjønner noen ting. Folk er jo short om hverandre og skjønner jo ikke en dritt.
The Russian authorities beyond
kan gå konkurs. Det er så dumt at det er blitt svimmelt. Jeg skal bare ta bikkjene.
He said you either join the Russian army, and according to the Kremlin, they were being paid already by the Russian MOD for a year. They paid their salaries. Or you could go home or exile and head to Belarus. At this point, it really is unclear how many Wagner fighters have joined the Russian army, but of course we know that the war continues, and this number could be critical in terms of how the operation in Ukraine is going on.
There also seems to be this fear in Poland of what the fallout from this might mean for them. They've deployed forces, that includes anti-terror units. Maria, what exactly is happening? Why is there this concern from Poland?
Yes, and of course, again, this is a neighbor to Belarus. In fact, they share a big land border, the Polish and Belarus. And we had a statement yesterday from the Interior Minister of Poland saying that they will deploy and relocate 500 officers to the border. That is additional personnel to the border in response to what they believe is now an increased security risk for the country because of Prigozhin and because of this idea that Wagner fighters could join him and actually head to Belarus. We should also note this is not the first time we've seen real tensions break out between Belarus and Poland. Remember, about 2 years ago, Poland accused Lukashenko of sending thousands of illegal immigrants to the border to create tensions, and that led to a week of turmoil. Beyond that, we should also note that this year there is an election in Poland. We don't have a date for it yet, but for the Polish government, this is also about presenting itself as being tough on Russia, tough on Belarus, and of course, any migration that may stem from it.
Maria, thank you very much. That is Bloomberg's Maria Tadeo in Brussels. Coming up, major U.S. banks raise their dividends following the Fed's stress test. We'll have more on that for you next. This is Bloomberg.
UK, your source for news and analysis covering the biggest challenges facing the UK government government, economy, financial services, and markets.
Tax cuts should not be the priority. It's about a credible plan for growth over the next 2-3 years.
In this post-Brexit world, how do you see actually servicing your clients?
It was disruptive, and it's going to have implications to how capital raising works.
Now we're having the perfect storm in the UK.
Watch Francine Lacqua Thursdays at 9:30 a.m. only on Bloomberg, your global business authority.
Jeg har mange dagsposisjoner. Jeg kjøper og selger om hverandre.
This was, you come into Chipotle along the line, you interact with the crew, and you customize your meal. We've got this separate make line, and it's digitized, and so the orders come in, and they're really kind of staged so that if you say at noon, I want to come in at 1 o'clock, we hold that order, and we will send it to the crew like maybe 10 to 1,
right.
So it's ready right when you pull up your car.
How do you manage these kind of two different staffing needs, right?
Yes.
And making sure you have the right amount of people at the right time.
We spend a lot of time projecting sales. A lot of it is, it's part art, part science. We're trying to bring more science and more AI into it. Then you know exactly what your staffing needs to be. So if you get the sales right, you can get the entire restaurant staffed perfectly. With just a couple people, our average restaurant now does about
$1 million
per restaurant in digital sales.
Welcome back to Bloomberg Daybreak Europe.
Good morning. This is Bloomberg Surveillance.
Welcome to Bloomberg Markets trying to open.
This is Bloomberg Technology. And welcome to Balance of Power. This is Bloomberg.
People ask me all the time, what is the key to being a really good investor? I tell them it's to surround yourself with and work with the best investors you can find. On Bloomberg Wealth, I'm going to take you to meet the greatest investors in the world, the people that I would like to have managing my money.
Climate is one thing that connects everybody across the globe. And if we don't do something about it, it brings down the value of all companies.
This is Bloomberg Surveillance Early Edition. I'm Danny Berger in London. Kriti Gupta is in New York. Now on to some banking and finance corporate stories that caught our attention today. Barclays is seeking to end its corporate relationship, its banking relationship that is, with OD Asset Management. According to the Financial Times, the hedge fund has been battling to contain investor exodus after a June 8th article by the newspaper that alleged that founder Crispin Odey mistreated women over a 25-year period. Now, elsewhere, the FT is also reporting that UBS plans to make clear its rescue of Credit Suisse won't rely on funding from Swiss taxpayers as a political backlash against the deal bids ahead of national elections. Separately, a Swiss newspaper is also reporting that UBS isn't planning to take Credit Suisse's domestic unit public. Kriti, I can't help but think these two stories are related. We're holding on to the public unit, and we're not going to be using taxpayer money.
I mean, it's a pretty good turnaround, I would say, from what we were expecting initially with the takeover, which is simply that they would gut the company. So to be able to kind of withstand all of this is, I would say, a pretty impressive scorecard here.
Yeah, fair enough, although a fair amount of folks from Credit Suisse will no longer be working at the combined firm. Hey, Kriti, we're also tracking U.S. banks, too, because J.P. Morgan, Wells Fargo, Morgan Stanley, and Goldman Sachs all announced that they would have higher dividends. They led this. That's, of course, after the stress test. Of course, Kriti, we still need to find out details about capital requirements in Basel III and sort of any other fallout from the regional bank crisis.
Yeah, but this is like so typical of the banks. As soon as they get kind of that flying colors acing of those stress tests, immediately they're going to put out their dividends. It's going to boost the stock. But I think the capital requirements thing is the biggest risk. We had Shalini Basak on, our Wall Street correspondent, on the show last week, and that's kind of what she warned about. She said that reporting of where you could have a massive increase, well, that also has an effect not just on the stock, but just how much.
Er det shortlocks nå? Ja, short, ja. Tatt litt gevinst, er fortsatt short på flere nivåer. Ser han litt, den er sterk. Den har ikke falt så mye som jeg vil at den skal falle.
Steeper cap requirement. All right, coming up, Kriti and I are going to be speaking to Nika Trion, Van Lanschot Kempen chief economist. This is Bloomberg.
Den har falt litt, da. Men det er ikke mye. Den har massiv støtte her. Ja, jeg skal trede klokka 4. Nå har jeg en ny PC, så nå kan jeg trede live. Men det er mandag. På mandager er det veldig dårlig likviditet, dårlig volum på mandager. Mandager er ofte litt sånn kjedelig.
From the world of politics.
We're not going to be relying upon countries whose values we don't share.
To the world of business.
It's all about corporate power at the end.
Balance of Power. Live from Bloomberg's Washington headquarters.
Om vi har sett bunn på PGS? Antageligvis, men det kan jo hende at markedet knekker da. Da faller PGS videre. Men PGS skal nok ikke ned nå på grunn av noe som har med selskapet å gjøre i hvert fall.
Is looming. How close are we going to get to the line before you start to worry?
Alongside Kaylee Lines.
The door was open.
Hvor mange er på chatten? Jeg ser ikke en dritt her.
Between a rock and a hard place.
As they deliver news.
This is such an important economic issue.
He's no longer trying to run away from that. Really blew some minds.
Insight.
We can both invest in law enforcement and also make sure that communities feel safe in their own skin.
And analysis.
I think your audience will get this more than most.
This is not the Republican Party that you know.
It allows him to do what he did so successfully in 2020, which is run against crazy.
From and about politics' biggest power players.
This was the zombie case, and it's now more than well alive.
That's for sure, with 2 more potentially to come.
I'm willing to have this battle. It is vitally important.
This is the intersection of Washington and Wall Street.
Bringing people directly to the decision makers that impact your investments and your life.
Balance of Power, every weekday at 5 p.m. Eastern, only on Bloomberg, your global business authority. Markets countdown in Europe from the financial centers of the world. Bloomberg Markets European Close with Guy Johnson in London and Alex Steele in New York. Real-time numbers, real-time analysis. Weekdays.
This is Bloomberg Surveillance Early Edition. Here's what you need to know. Global stocks kicking off the second half of the year in the green, but some investors warning that chasing the rally from here might just be a risky move. Meanwhile, Janet Yellen heads to China. The U.S. Treasury Secretary will travel to Beijing this week, becoming the second member of Joe Biden's cabinet to head to the Chinese capital in recent weeks. And charging ahead, Tesla and China's BYD set fresh quarterly sales records on surging demand for electric vehicles. I'm Kriti Gupta in New York with Danny Berger in London. Danny, it feels like out of all the headlines, all the geopolitics, all of the monetary policy story, it feels like the EV story might just be what's driving markets, at least in today's session.
Yeah, it certainly drove it in the Asia session. We saw all those Asia EV car makers really outperform. Maybe you can read into the eco story of that too. They're still willing to buy cars, although maybe it's Tesla, which is more discounted. Maybe not hugely fitting into the European session, but we are more of those cyclical type stocks performing. Euro Stoxx 600 up 0.2%. It's things like basic resources, energy. That's what's doing well. I know you're going to get to the oil story in just a moment, Kriti. Meanwhile, though, when it comes to currencies, most of these European currencies are having a hard time finding any strength versus the dollar. Both sterling, both the euro are weaker versus the dollar. Sterling especially so. Maybe this is starting to fade that strength in the first half of the year. The pound was the best performing G10 currency for the first half versus the dollar. Surprising considering what's happening on the
motherfuckers.
This is also reflecting what's going on in the US. We do see yields on the front end continue.
Akkurat sånn som jeg vil ha det. Fall i det nå. Lag den i bunnen nå. Hvis det faller an nå, så kan det falle helt ned til 16.100. Jeg skal være med den litt da. Faen er det for noe musikk? Kom litt til å sitte og surret her og prøvde også å bryte den opp teknisk. Men jeg går ikke på den! Jeg skal ikke ta gevinst, så ikke faen. Jeg skal være med ned. Jeg kan ta gevinst nå, men jeg nekter. Nekter! Jeg hørte om han fra Østfold. Jeg hørte om han fra Østfold. Han som driver med sånn der... Ja, fordi jeg hørte stikk motsatte om han. Jeg hørte at han har skikkelig, hva skal jeg si, alt annet enn fornøyde kunder, har jeg hørt. Men jeg vet ikke. Aner ikke. Men han tjener mer penger enn meg i hvert fall. Så jeg vet ikke. Jeg synes det virker veldig rart. Så jeg tar faen. Jeg synes det virker veldig, veldig rart. Ja. Nå er vi short, boys. Vi er short fra her, fra her, fra her. Vi er short fra der, fra fredag. Så nå trener vi penger. Ok, Jones, skal du ta den? Skal du ta den? Nei, jeg skal ikke ta den. Jeg skal ikke ta den. Den har motstand her, Jones. Jeg vet den har støtte og motstand her, men jeg vil se om han bryter ned. Hvis han bryter ned nå, så bryter han ned så jævlig. Hvis han holder seg, pytt, det er ikke så ille. Jeg må altså ha copyrighted musikk, vet du. Ellers så blir jeg... Royalty-free. Royalty-free musikk. Faen, den bare ikke... For æreskrenkelse. Ja, da har du skjønt det. Det er sånn Trygve Hegna skulle true meg med det. Mye opp i dag er litt, ikke nok, jeg er litt forsiktig i dag, det er mandag. Jeg er short. Hva gjør du? Bra. Kom igjen nå, lag ny bunn nå. Se på timeschartet, toppenshoot, 30-chartet, på vei ned, 50-chartet, minuttchartet, ned. Nå har støttet her nede. Der kom market makeren og fucka alle. Boom! I dag tredje jeg litt dumt, for jeg kunne gjort dette her 100 ganger og tjent mye mer penger. Så i dag så er jeg litt sånn der, jeg er litt dum i dag. Jeg kunne gjort det 100 ganger, men jeg har fått sånn skikkelig dropp. Kom igjen! Motherfuckers! Ny bunn! Jeg var opp 128% på 3 uker på fredag. Så tok jeg tap på 9 lapper, så nå er jeg opp 108%, ja. Juhu! Fytte helvete. Jones er en luring, vet du. Å, fy faen med detter! Herregud, ass. Jeg er så jævla god. Kom i SM klokka 4. Den kan ikke ta sjanse på. Da har du ikke noe å si hvor god jeg er. La nå de dærfiskene kjøpe litt her nede nå. Jeg skal ikke kjøpe. Jeg ligger fortsatt. Jeg skal ikke ta gevinst i. Slutt å pipe, jenter! Hallo, boys! Elsker Jones. Hyggelig, da. Vi får vente og se snart. Nå kommer jeg ikke til å skjønne en dritt. Skriver noe kult nå. Har ikke vist det til noen. Sider kontrakt. Nå skjønner du, boys. Det blir konsesjon og pakka. Du pisser på det der helvetes markedet. Jeg håper jeg har dette her oppe i løpet av 4 til 6 uker. Jeg jobber med et år. Jeg tar ikke gevinst ennå. Jeg lar disse fjøsenissene få lov til å herre litt. Han tar gevinst der nede, da. Kom igjen, ny bunn nå, Tøvrik. Da dropper han. Han må droppe her. Han må bryte ned her, eller så er det ikke sikkert han bryter ordentlig ned. Her har han massiv støtte. Hvis du har store baller, så tar du ikke gevinst. Hvis du har litt små baller, så tar du gevinst nå. Det er fin gevinst. Jeg er short helt der oppe. Jeg er short herfra, 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 herfra. Så det er fin gevinst. Og hvis du har baller, kahonjas, så skal det være med helt ned hit. Helt ned hit. Hvis du har baller. Day low. Day low, motherfuckers. Vi må falle mer. Det har ikke falt nok, liksom. Jævla støtte her, ass. Hva faen er det for musikk? Det er bare sånn drittmusikk på sånne der copy-free greier. Oi. Må liksom ned her. Må bryte her. Stengte øverste posisjonen. Stenger neste øverste posisjon. Nå er bare 3 posisjoner igjen. Faen, det er så brei. Gå på ny short nå. Short nytt nå. De er dekket der nede nettopp. De er dekket her, short er der nå. Her er gevinst allerede. Blir sittende. Se, jeg tok shortet den her på nytt. Man tar gevinsten. Du ser det ut. Nå se. Ute. Tok gevinsten et opp. Kjører ny short, må bryte videre ned. Jeg går lang også, hvis jeg ser det litt, hvis det er riktig. Shorta på nytt nå, bryter videre ned. Han må liksom forbi det. Nå er liksom. Der, ja. Kom nå ned, da. Det har jævlig mye støtte, ass. Nå har jeg penger på shorten min igjen. Nå har jeg penger igjen ordentlig. Jeg tror jeg har ADHD-aksjeplukker. Jeg er litt usikker. Jeg tror jeg har det. Jeg så en ny serie i går. From. Fy faen, det var psycho. Det var ganske vild, altså. Om jeg så skal si det selv. From. From. Den siste traden jeg gjorde nå er sånn her risky trade. Den er litt amatør den jeg tok nå, for det er en breakout trade. Det vil si at jeg kan få den rett i trynet. Jeg kan få den rett i trynet helt opp hit. Eller så kommer den, boom, ned hit. Så den traden jeg gjorde her er litt skummel. Det er breakout trade. Du ser du tar en bet nå, setter en short her, stopplås der oppe, short der, og bare er med hele veien ned. Nå har jeg penger igjen på resten. Jeg skal tjene 10 000 i dag. Ja! Jeg kan ta gevinst nå for å se om han bryter. Kjøpe på en ned igjen hvis han bryter. Men gjør jeg det? Nei, det gjør jeg ikke. Jeg tror jeg skal falle videre. Her har han kjempestøtte. Kom igjen da, din lille hårdott. Kom igjen nå. Kom igjen. Faen der oppe. Bryt nå her, da. Nå må vi få hjelp av marketmakerne snart. Oljeprisen opp etter varsel om kutt fra Russland og Saudi-Arabia. Er det for å fyre opp? Kjøpe Statoil nå da, Aker BP. Hvordan går det med treningen da? På at man har fremdag, det skjer til kant av meldingen av Russland og Saudi-Arabia, må du kutte daglig produksjon og skrive bomber. Det kan jo dra opp Norge ekstra, men PGS kommer sikkert å gå opp på alt sammen i tillegg. PGS er farlig for de som har shortplan, altså. Den er farlig. De som har short PGS nå, de bør rett og slett ta seg... De bør egentlig bare være ganske nervøse nå, for å si det pent. Jævla sånn satanmusikk, jeg vil ikke ha sånn musikk. Jeg vil ha ordentlig musikk. Kom nå ned da! Det var drittmusikk. I all verden. Nå kommer han! Nå kommer han! Kom igjen da, bryt ned her. Kom igjen da, faen er det venter på. Kom ned her. Fy faen, kaosmusikk. Kom igjen! Kom igjen! Kom igjen nå da! Ny short. faen, det var vill musikk. Der kom det breakouten vi snakket om. Jeg startet på nytt nå. Akkurat nå. Og hvis ikke han kommer ned, så går jeg long herfra. Så skal jeg være med litt på nytt. Det er ikke noe sånn rolig musikk på det der free, litt sånn chill. Ta gevinst nå. Ute. Tok shorten her oppe. Tok 2 shorter, dekka halvparten her nå. Blir med vinneren ned. Hvis den ikke kommer ned, så går jeg long her opp. Så jeg er fortsatt såt. Send noe å drikke. Oi. Takk, aksjebukker. Er det penger på den siste shorten, men jeg holder posisjonen. Den er litt skummel, altså. Det er litt skummel å ha short her nede. Shorter på nytt, den er nettopp dekket der nede. Dette er skummelt, for her kan man bryte opp. Og da går jeg long med alt det her jeg har. Sånn, short på nytt. Her er det penger på shorten igjen. Husk jeg er 200 ganger giring, så jeg får litt ut av de svingningene. Jævla risky det her, altså. Vurderer å ta gevinst nå på den siste jeg shorta, bare for å ta ned noe risiko. Ta gevinst nå hvert øyeblikk på den siste shorten. Vi skal se om jeg kan få den litt lenger ned. Der kom den bra ned. Det her var stille, ass. Faen, da. Hvorfor skjer det? Det er en ny PC, jo. Å, fy faen, nå ramler det! Må ta gevinst på den siste. I helvete! Ta gevinst. Se det ramla. Det går jævla slow i dag. Jeg har tjent penger da, men det går jævla tregt. Her jeg vurderer også å kjøre en longen på dags mot shorten. Og gevinst av Jørvik på den siste shorten. Litt mer nå. Sånn, ute på den siste. Den er shorta der er ute på nå. Jeg har shortet 2 derfra, så er 1 igjen nå. Motherfucker! Nå har jeg penger på den andre shorten nå. Tror du PG-stilen går mot åpning, USA-åpning? Jeg er litt usikker. Nå går shortene mine bra her. Å, det er så vakkert! Fy faen, jeg er så jævla god! Ta litt gevinst nå, da. Nei, det skal jeg ikke gjøre. Hello, Gorantla. Samba Siva Rao. Nå er penga! Boom! Motherfucker. Deilig, deilig, deilig. What's coming around? Oh shit. Fuck me. Å, se her da, boys! Tror dere shorten min kommer gjennom nå, eller? Hæ? Mother, brother and the sucker. Fucker. Go down. Go down. Bryt nå ned. Jævla dritt. Han pusser nesa. Jeg tar ikke gevinst enda. Kommer ned der. Faktisk jævlig bra med volum også, så her kan du få et ordentlig kjør ned. Kom igjen da! Jadda, 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 kjør på. Der da, kom igjen! Oh yes, yes, yes! Fy faen, så god jeg er! Se det faller på da! Hele veien liksom. Hele veien. Jeg har bare tatt så små posisjoner, så jeg er jo litt kylling da. Men jeg kjører litt low risk. Kjører litt sånn low risk. Bygger opp sten for sten. Jeg er opp 128% på litt over 3 uker. På sånne små trades. Fy faen, ass. Fytti helvete. Tror jeg tar gevinst snart, og så gir jeg meg til USA-åpning for å komme i SEM etterpå. Fy faen, det faller. Fytti helvete. Satan. Ja, jeg har trent par-tre lapper. Det er veldig treigt i dag, så jeg tar bare sånne små posisjoner. Jeg dekker litt her nede. Jeg dekker halvparten. Men ISM kommer klokka 4, så det, liksom, det vil være litt sånn der... Jeg skal ut til alt før ISM-talen kommer. Jeg har tjent penger i dag, så jeg har gjort det bra. Jeg har gjort det veldig bra. Så jeg har tatt ut... Jeg har bare 2 kontrakter igjen. Jeg var oppe i 7 kontrakter. Ta ut den nest siste nå. Der. Den har bare 1 kontrakt igjen. Det er jo ingenting. Jeg har satt et mål for dagen ned hit. Jeg har falt mye da. Jeg har vært med hele veien. Jeg har vært med helt seg her oppe. 16 her oppe. Og så der. Her har jeg vært med. Tesla kommer til å pumpe litt opp i dag, derfor er jeg veldig forsiktig med å shorte Nasdaq. Jeg tror markedet skal ned. Jeg var long hele forrige uke, long og short om hverandre. 10 hours exciting. Bare for å bli ikke klar over at du streamer på Twitch, superfett. Tusen hjertelig. Nå tar jeg gevinsten på dagsen den siste. Den kan sikkert falle mye mer, men ISM-talen kommer etterpå, og folk er tjukke i huet, så jeg vil ikke sitte med den sjansen. Glad av meg, jeg reklamerer ikke så mye at det er her. Jeg fikk ny PC her forleden, så jeg skal reklamere litt mer for hvert, så vi blir mange inn på her. Hvis det går longerne det. Nå dekker jeg shortene hvert øyeblikk. Den siste jeg har igjen. Da 1 igjen, og da gir jeg meg til 4. Ta gevinst hvert øyeblikk, så er jeg ferdig med den siste. Så venter jeg til etterpå. Har du noen tips til hvor man burde starte hvis man ønsker å begynne med trading? Ha prøver med å navigere under med informasjon. Følg meg! YouTube, så skal du følge meg. Og ikke for å være sånn breial, men jeg blant de beste på scalping, sånn hands down. Sånn uten å tulle. Det vil dere se snart. Nå er jeg ordentlig i penga. Nå tar jeg gevinst snart øyeblikk. Jeg er blant toppen in the world på scalping. Scalping. Nå tar jeg gevinst. Faen, jeg tok Skal hatt mer. Shorta mer. Hadde hatt mer penger, hadde jeg tatt 10 ganger. Men jeg har jo faen ikke mer penger. Jeg må gjøre det rolig, liksom. Rolig. Notert med nederrømme, virker det litt over. Ja, det er kanskje det. Du kan kjøre swing trades, da. Scalping er kanskje ikke noe, det er liksom ikke noe som alle kan drive med, tror jeg, men swing trading er ganske greit. Og da kan du bruke nå ute, tatt gevinst, ferdig. Nå må jeg lukke den igjen, for hvis jeg ikke lukker den nå, så fortsetter jeg å trade. Jeg kjenner meg selv såpass. Så nå lukker jeg den igjen. Se, nå faller den videre. Jeg lukker den igjen, for jeg skal ikke bli lurt av meg selv. Lukk igjen, da er jeg ferdig. Sånn, da er jeg tjent. Ja, jeg tradet inn litt over 3000 kroner på 2 timer. Det er ikke mye penger, men jeg skal trade frem til klokken 10 i kveld. Hvis jeg fortsetter det tempoet her da, så har jeg dratt inn cirka kanskje mellom 5 og 10 000 i dag. Og det er ganske bra. Det er ikke mye penger for mange sikkert, men det er kun trading. Det er ikke veldig risiko. Det er liksom veldig små transaksjoner. Så jeg har dratt inn nesten 43 pluss 97. Ja. Jeg har dratt inn nesten 60 000 på 2 uker. 60 000 på 3 uker da. På egenkapital på 43 000 kroner. Så skal jeg øke lot-sizen, så til neste måned så skal jeg dra inn 150 kanskje, 200, og så bare øker. Basta, boom! Takk for meg, takk for i dag. Jeg er på etterpå klokka 4 på ISM-tallene, en halvtime før. Notert når jeg driver med, ja. Så nå kjører vi på. Så har vi tjent penger i dag også. Takk for meg.